So we are going to soon be joined by the Honorable Kuria Kimani, the Member of Parliament for Molo Constituency. He was also the Chairman of the National Assembly Finance and Planning Committee. We'll be talking about KRA's tax amnesty program. As he gets here, let's first look at what Moses Kuria was doing. It was just in the news right now with Aseto. He was at the NYS yesterday, and there are a number of things that he said, and those things are going to raise some issues. Okay? So number one, he said, we get all these thousands of people as cohorts into NYS every time. They come in here, we train them, we give them some basic skills, and also we inculcate some sense of discipline and patriotism in them. That's the whole idea of NYS, right? Mm-hmm. So then after that, what happens to them? Well, some of them leave, some of them are still retained by NYS, others now have to go and look for other things to do. Moses Kuria, one of the things he said was, how about the police and military recruitment starts with NYS graduates? They already have some basics. They can run kilometers. You have already done those whole basic things. Work on a Meno 32, you have checked all those things as you're going to NYS, the same way you're doing to police, you've done it. So why not start with, police and military recruitment, take NYS graduates and then fill up the others with people who are not NYS graduates. That way you're making use of these NYS graduates. Secondly, people who get employed into public service go for a mandatory course at NYS. Kuwanyorosha, kuweka discipline, kuambia the importance of getting up and making your bed, and all this and the other.
And to salute and to march.
And to follow orders. Follow instructions.
Okay.
Right?
And to burn every morsel of food that you eat.
See? Now those things, if you listen to Moses Kuria and it just sounds like, he's saying all these things, but think about it. I like what he's saying. We have NYS. Already, the Working Party on Education had proposed that after secondary school, before joining tertiary and all others, all graduates of secondary school should go for mandatory NYS. Just back to what you did, CT. Go back into NYS, right? After high school, go through NYS. How about now this one we say, take public servants and let them go through some programs in NYS?
The point you make is a valid one, because what NYS or the equivalent of NYS does, that this compulsory voluntary government service, is one, it inculcates a discipline that you probably thought you had, but you'll realize you didn't once you get there. And there's a part of you that gets to look at life differently from what you actually thought before. Okay? Because when you are at NYS camp, by the way, it was after my time. The people
It came after
me, yes. Remember one of the reasons why it was disbanded? There's a gentleman called Mondawiro, who was a student leader, later became an MP. There were what were periodic student riots at the University of Nairobi, and usually it was this helter-skelter activity where students are throwing stones at the riot police, and the riot police are chasing after them. On this one occasion, one of the first graduates, the first group of graduates, when the police came, these guys weren't running. It was a formation. Did I see that? Been taught formation. And they stood. The police were advancing, they stood. Then orders were issued. Forward, march. So this whole group of people started walking towards.
Now these are university students.
They're not throwing stones.
Marching information towards the police.
Police. And the police were here and there. You see, that thing did not go another year. But what?
The government was like, this NYS is creating an...
What are we doing here? Huh? What? They were orderly. There was no mayhem. They were listening to one or two voices. That's it. They had become disciplined. Now that is not something the government was keen on. I thought in my mind, even then, an opportunity was missed. Because the government is looking at the flip side And you're looking at students as this disorganized group of people who would oppose them from time to time. And rightfully, they're thinking, if they're this organized, my friend, we are going to have a very serious problem on our hands, because university students demonstrating rioting is not just university students. They have parents, they have relatives, they have siblings. So you're talking about a very large community of people who are watching all this, and they're likely to side with the students.
Yep.
So the opportunity was missed. That was an opportunity for opening dialogue and saying, okay, folks, now that you've demonstrated this, can we talk?
Yeah.
They were never unwilling to talk. There's a gentleman called Josephat Karanja when he was Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi. One of the things, and in those days, it's one James Orengo who was a student at the university. Karanja used to talk. It's one of the things that people liked him for. There's a gentleman called Mungai who was an even better conversationalist when he came in. Anyone who led the university, I keep saying the university, there's only one university then anyway.
Of course.
One who was able to talk to students suddenly found that things didn't go as badly as you thought. Now, there's one gentleman who also seemed to have understood that rule, the late Professor Magoha. In his tenure at the university, did you ever hear of one squeak or one stone being thrown or something going wrong somewhere? Somehow, there are leaders who had understood this idea of dialogue. Now, there are the details which we'll not go into. But when I said the opportunity was missed, can you imagine if you'd had consequent groups of people going to NYS? How many years hence we would have a very different public servant, a very different citizen who's in positions of leadership and growing, because they would have had that inculcated in them. Yes. Plus, we would have a voluntary workforce that can do very many things.
Yep. People with some basic skill that does a lot, very many things that we need done in the country.
And spread right across the country. So by the time they even get into what you call formal employment, you're talking about a very different person. But as I said, the opportunity was missed.
It was missed. And, I look at NYS and I see, again, the missed opportunity. There's what it does. It brings in, it inculcates that sort of discipline and patriotism, which are very, very important core of a nation. Then there's also the skill and the ability to mobilize these people, right? I always think that one of the biggest contractors in this country should be the National Youth Service. When you're talking about building a road, I don't know which road and this and the other, NYS should be a contractor. They've got all this. They've got engineers. They've got civil engineers. They have people who can build roads. They have people who can build bridges. They have people who can build airports. So when you talk about bringing this company of road and bridge and whatever, we can use NYS as a contractor in very many of these things and winning contracts.
Eric, we've done it.
Yep.
This railway line from here to Nanyuki, who do you think were the principal people who were behind building it?
It was NYS and the military.
Who are the individuals who are called on a regular basis when you need something to be filled? I won't forget when the country was coming together and planning the funeral for the late president.
Yes, who did they bring in?
Who did it? Who refurbished? Who made sure that things were done on time? Who were the individuals who were set up to sort out a lot of these issues on the days leading to and the day of?
Even in all these government functions, you will see NYS people being positioned somewhere, sentries at the gates. They'll help to maintain order. They'll help to, chaperone people and guide people. So we have them.
We do.
Now, let's extend that kind of discipline and order and all into, I agree with Moses Kuria, public servants, NYS. Police, start by recruiting these NYS recruits and all. Military, start. The National Police Service is going to have a word.
They will have a word.
Of course, you'll hear what they'll respond to the CS. In due course, you will hear it. Anyway, our guest is in the studio now. The Honorable Kuria Kimani is the Member of Parliament for Molo Constituency and the Chairman of the National Assembly Finance and Planning Committee. Mheshimiwa, good morning.
Good morning, Latif. Good morning, Duke. Good morning, our good Proverbs guy.
The Proverbs guy is called C.T. Munga.
I know. Good morning. But we really enjoy your Proverbs. They're very rich in content, and especially when you put them in context. And when I listen to the two of you, try to interpret it, it's really amazing. I was telling Latif the other day, I was on a working trip in Washington a few weeks ago. And I met a lot of people that really watch and listen to Spice FM. And it was really amazing because with the different time zones, they have to wake up very early in the morning to listen to you guys. So keep up the good work you're doing.
Mheshimiwa, equally, we love the idea of you coming here and sharing with us the very specific and peculiar knowledge that you have on these subjects. So thank you for honoring our invitations.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Mheshimiwa, today's proverb is from Zanzibar. Okay? It will be read to you in Kiswahili, and then you will do first the direct translation into English, and then you'll give us your interpretation of it.
All right.
Siti?
Asifuye mvua imemnyea.
Okay.
Aisifuye mvua imemnyea. First of all, just do the direct translation into English.
He who praises the rain has been rained on.
Yes. Hapa wamepata ngapi?
Bwana 10 juu ya 10.
Sawa. Sawa. Now, the interpretation. What's your interpretation of it?
That for you to talk about a service or a product, it's because you are you're beneficiary of it. So, for you to talk about tax amnesty, it is because you have been either part of the process, you benefited from it, or you know the great benefits going to give you. Latif, some of us were very entrepreneurial in spirit from the word go. Even when there were no opportunities, when I applied for my HELB loan in 2008, when I was joining university, I was told I needed to have a KRA PIN. So I went and did an application for the KRA PIN, but that time you had to go to a cyber. So of course I had zero knowledge on tax laws that time. So when I applied, the guy in the cyber did VAT for me. So I was supposed to be a VAT agent. So a few years later, when I registered my company in 2000, I think 12 or thereon, after clearing my university, I'm told that you owe KRA like, I think it was 200,000 shillings. Why? Because I've not been filing my VAT returns. I'm like, I never sold anything that would make
What
me...
are those?
Returning to who?
Returning to who?
I was a student.
Truly.
I was a student, so I had to write a letter and prove that I was a student that time, and I was not trading in any vatable products, and I was not a VAT withholding agent. And luckily, at that time, then with that letter, then they just exempted me from paying the 20,000 shillings VAT. So if you check now, what you did with the Finance Act, Section 37E, we amended the Tax Procedures Act. That now automatically gives you amnesty on all penalties and interests. If you but you have to apply for it. Let's start from there. You have to go to a TSO agent or go to the KRA website, go to the Department on Debt and Compliance and apply for the amnesty. So that if you are wrongly, like me, registered for VAT and you're not a VAT withholding agent or anything else that you didn't do, probably didn't file your annual returns, and therefore that has attracted penalty and interest, you will be given 100% amnesty. Amnesty means you'll be forgiven.
That's it.
That's it. It's not a negotiation. It's not something that you have to bribe somebody, or you have to sweet talk somebody, or you have to go. I was engaging the new KRA Commissioner General the other day, and we were laughing how as taxpayers, when they go to KRA and you you owe them money and you want them to listen to you, then you go poorly dressed and thinking that you unakaa mashida watakuhurumia. You don't need to kaa mashida. You don't need to do. You just need to go to the website or go to any TSO facility in the country.
What is TSO?
tax service is called
Office.
tax service office, or Huduma Center. If you go to, where you come from has a Huduma Center, and most likely that Huduma Center has a KRA officials sitting there. You just need to turn up and tell them, as Section 37E of the Tax of the Finance Act, amending the Tax Procedures Act, giving full amnesty to all principal taxes that are owed to KRA, and I came here to apply.
So,
Just apply, and you get it.
who qualifies for this amnesty?
So, any taxpayer, or let me put it, any Kenyan, if and you know, sometimes when we use the word taxpayer, we imagine the big taxpayers. But as long as you have a KRA PIN, you are registered as a taxpayer. So any taxpayer who applies for this amnesty gets it. However, if you owe KRA any principal tax, what does principal tax mean? So, for example, you withheld your contractor, and therefore you have an obligation on withholding tax, or the VAT, or an employer, and therefore withholding agent of payee, pay as you earn. So that would be the principal tax. So as long as you've paid your principal tax, then you qualify for amnesty. And someone will ask,
So there'll be amnesty on what? I've already paid.
no, if you've not paid your principal,
So let's
tax,
say
you'll be penalized.
I was supposed to remit a payee for my employees, but I didn't. So it's accruing a penalty
Yep.
and interest.
So you have three problems.
Yeah.
So if you've not been paying your pay, if you've not been remitting your pay for your employees, then you owe KRA first of all the principal tax.
The payee itself.
That is payee. You have been penalized
There's a penalty.
for, and you're penalized. I think pay is paid by, I think, the 9th of the month. Something
Yeah.
like that. So if you remitted past the date, then you'll be penalized. And for each additional time you did not pay that payee, it accrues interest. Because that it means that you're using government funds in your trading. And if you're using your government funds for trading, then it's like you're using a bank facility. Then
The government has lent me money.
has lent you money. So that means you have principal tax, you have
Penalty.
and you have interest. So you say, go to KRA, pay principal tax.
Okay.
If you pay principal tax, your interest and a penalty are forgiven. And someone would ask, so what if I don't have money to pay my principal tax? I said, it's okay. If you go to the KRA website, you can actually propose on the form to have a payment plan. So you can say, I don't have the money now, but if you give me 3, 4, 5, 6 months, I will be able to pay this principal tax in these installments. So as long as you pay that, you agree to the payment plan, and you pay it before the 31st. I'll confirm the dates on the act, but I think it's before the 31st of July next year. Then, when you complete paying the principal tax, because you had applied for amnesty, all your interests and penalties will be forgiven.
You make this sound so easy.
Because it's easy. Because it's easy.
Like that?
It's just like that.
You don't need to know anybody. You don't need to beg anybody. You don't need to.
You don't need to go to a tribunal.
You don't
tax
go to the
dispute
tribunal.
Nothing.
You don't need to do anything. It's as easy as just going to the website.
You're just saying, mimi nimekosa, nimefanya dhambi, then that's it.
Forgive
Kusema,
me.
nimekosa mimi.
Nimekosa mimi.
Nimekosa mimi. Nimekosa sana. And
You just do that and that's it.
yeah.
Let's take a break. 28 minutes to 9. Kenya's biggest conversation, hosting the Honorable Kuria Kimani, Member of Parliament for Molo Constituency, Chairman of the Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly. In the very, very controversial Finance Act, there were some good things. One of the good things is what we're discussing this morning, tax amnesty. So there's an automatic tax amnesty that has been introduced here, and KRA saying everybody take advantage of this tax amnesty. That's what we are learning about today. Amnesty what? Is it international? 29 to 9.
Spice.
Tax amnesty, and KRA is telling you take advantage of this tax amnesty. It's in law, all right? And Mheshimiwa, you just taught us the basics. If you have principal plus penalty plus interest, apply, commit to paying the principal, the penalty and interest will be waived. Is it in all categories of taxes?
Unfortunately not. It's okay. Let me rephrase that. It is all category of taxes, apart from taxes that, for example, are in dispute. So you probably did a self-assessment on your tax, but KRA came and did an assessment of your taxes, and the taxes owed by you, you're not able to agree with the KRA officers. So that means that
there's a dispute there.
There's a dispute. So unless you resolve that dispute in that you agree that this is how much debt I owe, then you don't qualify. But if you agree that this is if you agree with the KRA officers, and I really encourage you, because KRA is doing a lot of retraining, of their staff, and taking taxpayers as their clients, rather than, for example, how maybe the police will treat you, like how they come and police you, or kajo. and so you can have a conversation, and once you agree how much your outstanding debt is, then all of that principal tax and you agree on a payment plan or paid, then you qualify for full amnesty on interest, on penalties, on what you've agreed on. But you recall, we have the East African Community, ECMA, and those will be mostly custom taxes that are agreed upon by the East African Community. So if the taxes that you owe relates to custom, relates to EAC, then of course that goes beyond the border, so doesn't qualify.
Okay.
But it's any principal tax, and I'll really tell you, filing of returns, that's where many people get caught. Because essentially you ask yourself, my company didn't do any business for the whole year, so why do you have to
file taxes?
And unfortunately, if you don't file, you're penalized.
Yeah.
For those people that are VAT agents, again, maybe that month you didn't sell anything, so you yes, or even for owners of businesses, the owners of paying their taxes and making sure that they file the correct reports lies with mostly the accounting officers, the accountants. So maybe your accountant forgot.
That's it.
And so because they forgot, sorry,
the owner of the company,
who's the owner of the PIN, has a tax liability. So we're encouraging the owners of the business, visit KRA website, visit a tax service office, visit Huduma Center, where there will be a KRA agent. Look at what your tax obligation is. Let them print for you a statement, tell you there's what you owe. And in that report, or interests, or penalties, they will do a credit on your ledger, and it's gone. Gone.
Okay. It seems an awful lot like, KRA is trying to make it a little bit easier for individuals to operate, especially now with this cloud of, potential penalties and interest hanging overheads. So are we saying that there's a situation that would be created by you having maybe ignored unintentionally what could have been an issue, or having gone to explain what might have gone wrong? So why? I mean, it may sound like an obvious answer, but then why would KRA want to make it easier for folks then to be able to just come and say, well, you've got a big bill, but if you come and explain to me, I can basically wipe it away? I mean, why? Because KRA, again, is in the business of collecting these taxes. But here we are saying that KRA will just say, okay, Kimani, come and explain to me what has happened. and we can make this all go away.
And it's not KRA doing this. This has been enabled by the Finance Act of 2023. So if you need to credit anybody, that should be Parliament.
Oh, so it's an opportunity to pat Parliament on the back for doing what it's supposed to do.
It's a pat on the back for Parliament for standing up to being people's representatives. Because when you're doing public participation on the finance bill, now the Finance Act, that was a key concern to many Kenyans. And I've given you my personal example. When you're applying for your PIN, because you need to apply for PIN for anything, somebody, for example, is buying land in the village, and they're told, for you to buy land and for you to now have this land transferred to you, what's your KRA PIN? Then they ask, no, what's my KRA? What's that?
What's a PIN?
What's a PIN? Then they told, no, there's something you need to do. So what do I need to do? Then they said, if you go to in Molo, if you go to a town called Elbagon, there's the cyber called kwa Cairo cyber. So enda kwa Cairo.
Enda kwa Cairo
utapewa. So you go to the cyber, and the guy at the cyber helps.
Creates an account for you.
Creates an account for you. So you don't know what this guy is doing.
Yeah.
But you know you need this PIN.
Yeah. And
he
this
prints
guy
out something.
Yeah. And this guy is not a tax expert or anything. He doesn't even know what he is doing.
He just gets tax obligations for you.
Yeah. So it takes VAT. So you become a VAT withholding agent without your knowledge. So KRA on the other side, they're like, we have a new KRA withholding agent.
It's a Cairo guy.
This KRA withholding agent is a Cairo guy who has no idea that he's registered for VAT.
Oh my goodness.
And as a result, that PIN start accumulating penalties and interest. Because KRA is asking themselves, this Cairo guy, why is he not paying VAT?
The other problem is when you get any notification from KRA, your first reaction is to go into a panic. It's something we've asked. Are there ways? There was a time, I think it was last year, KRA was out on this blitz. They were really going all out to try and communicate, and I'm not sure they're still doing it, but it was a good thing because KRA had a scary lot.
There's a lot of confusion on what KRA is and what they're supposed to do, and sometimes, just like in all agencies, whether you go to the media or whether you go to any profession, you find rogue officers. So they will exist in like you have them in every institution, and of course now the bad people will have a bad reflection of an organization or an institution, and therefore that's why when it's like fine. Let's give an example of Kanjo. It's like now, we were treated the other day to this Kanjo guy who got a free ride in the city.
Yeah, that was fun.
Baby.
Let's go.
The guy went, I think it was Robert Kitengelo or something. But that lady got carried. Let me say that. But you see, as a result, it's tempting to perceive the whole Kanjo people as being like that officer.
Are they not?
Yeah.
That's one.
Have you ever encountered these kind of officers?
They are bad ones, but
There are some good ones.
there's some
There's
good
some good ones.
It's only in some institutions,
And where-
the bad are
and-
many.
now where do you
In
find
some
the good ones?
institutions,
Exactly.
the bad are few.
Let me give an example that you will relate with. So last Parliament, I meet this guy, and he tells me he works with Standard, okay? And he would interview me and tell me, hey, Mheshimiwa, we want to know what's happening in Molo. We're running a story on the Standard. And then he has a recorder and a notebook, and
Did he show you an ID?
he actually had an ID.
Okay.
And then we would do a complete interview. Now check the Standard tomorrow, page 3. I've talked with the editor. My friend, I will buy the Standard. The following. Of course.
Did you ask which
So
Standard?
now we understand why there was an increase in circulation. Mheshimiwa went and told his 10 best friends to buy the.
Did you ask which standard?
Yes, we said.
Or whose standard?
And I'm told the Standard newspaper, and then they tell you this is my ID. So and usually when someone flashes their ID, you don't get to.
No, you don't scrutinize it.
Even if
you
you scrutinized it, you do not know the ID the standard issues. So it's tough.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
So you have nothing
to go by.
Yeah.
So this guy, and then he said, "Now see you to buy lunch." And
Bah.
it's okay. As in, it's okay. I assume we met and we had lunch together. So
Yes.
Bana, kumbe jamani.
Tapeli.
I doubt that. I think he reads
No,
the Standard with me. Like he doesn't.
He's an entrepreneur.
So those rogue officers will exist
They will
in
always
every
exist.
institution, whether it is KRA, whether it is in politics, whether it is in the media, whether it is in the medical fraternity, whether it's in insurance, they will all exist. So be wary of these officers. For example, KRA recently recruited revenue call them revenue assistants, revenue mobilization assistants.
The KRA police.
The revenue assistants.
Mobilization.
In uniform.
The revenue assistants. So essentially, it's a very important group because KRA is trying to have these officers come to you, business, and educate you how to be compliant.
Yeah.
So that you do not find yourself that you have to pay penalties or you have to pay interest or you accumulate debts that you do not know existed. So they visit your business. So they tell you that based on your sales, you should be paying turnover tax.
Why did they get them uniforms?
So
For
that
easy identification.
so that you can identify them.
To remove rogues.
Ati?
Matapeli wasikuja kwako.
Uniform.
Mimi ni revenue
You
agent.
see, bosi, unajua sasa ndio kuwe tapeli wa hawa watu lazima ushoneshe uniform.
Kwani ni ngumu?
At least
it's a barrier.
uta struggle. Lazima utafute fundi.
At least it's a barrier. Plus you're exposing yourself. If the real one's actually spotted, you'll be like,
No, that's not our uniform.
Eric, in a country.
it's okay. Don't take us to the cop guy.
Okay.
We know.
Okay. I rest the case.
The cop guy, yes.
Yeah. So essentially, the uniform is supposed to be an identifier, but you're also informing Kenyans that don't just trust the uniform, because as you rightly put it, I could just go to a fundi. You can go to your plug, and your plug can make you the uniform, but insist on them showing you their ID, and then you can use the KRA is now coming up with an called a USSD code, like the star something, where you can just do and verify whether this guy
this is
actually
genuine ID.
a KRA officer. And the essence is that they're not coming to force you. They're not going to come in to police you. It's about how do we help you be compliant, because there's a huge gap between what businesses or what taxpayers are supposed to pay and what they know.
Which you know why I'm taking this position? It's a strong anti-KRA move position, specifically to highlight one thing. There is a process that KRA began which was extremely useful in educating people. Educating isn't saying it once, it appearing in the paper once, the Commissioner General saying it once. That's not what it is. If there was a concerted effort, so that when you see them, you know exactly, because you've been told and you understand and you know. You see, there are people who know. We're talking about Kanjo. I know personally Kanjo police or enforcement officers who are very humane and very pleasant. Very. And they even help you. But I've come across some really nasty pieces of work. Okay? Now, I'm simply saying that by the time a service force gets a reputation for being unpleasant, it is not because of one person. It is certain repeated activities over a period of time. That's why that particular reputation sticks. Now, KRA is not an institution that is difficult to talk to. No, they are not. But how many people know and understand this? Especially if you are in my age bracket and you grew up in the days of income tax. Okay? It wasn't Kenya Revenue Authority, it was income tax.
Department of Income Tax.
If you got a letter, for heaven's sake, you might as well leave the country briefly before you come back and then read the letter after you've read. What I'm trying to say is, for compliance to be made the norm, there are certain things that people need to understand. You see, these taxes are meant for our benefit. The compliance is supposed to help you. Now, there are other things attached to it, but if you want to enforce something by creating laws and more enforcement, do you really think that by doing this you'll actually achieve the goal that you intended to? See, there has to be a communication of a benefit that somebody also derives from this for them to understand why this thing is so important. If they don't, you can have these officers who will be doing an excellent job, but you will not realize the gains that you're hoping to realize.
I can't agree with you more, and this is a call to all KRA officers across the country, that the concerns Kenyans have, taxpayers have, is that sometimes they don't wear a human heart. That sometimes they're not, when they approach the taxpayers, they don't approach them as their customers.
Yeah.
Because really, those are your clientele. So your demeanor, the way you talk to them, the way you address them should be, I am coming to be of service to you. And that's why there were calls to even just change the name from
Authority.
Kenya Revenue Authority to Kenya Revenue Service. But having said that, we have millions of, we have thousands of diligent KRA officers, the best. And you'll find that because if you check on the trend on their movement, you'll find that especially for the big, what we call the big fours, the big audit firms, KPMG, Deloitte and Touche, KPMG, Amnesty, PwC, anybody who studied accounting or finance, we all wanted to work for the big four. But you'll find that the big four will usually go to look for human resources from KRA. In fact, almost everyone I know who is a partner or director or key personnel in both the big four and the big banks worked with KRA, which tells you that if the best institutions in the world,
are poaching from
KRA, that tells you the quality of human resource,
that's in
of the
KRA.
skills that exist in KRA. And so that's why I really dissuade Kenyans. There are a few rogue ones.
There'll be rogue ones in every
institution.
I actually feel for the institution, because the job that the institution does is not an easy one. You're coming to collect money from me. I am trying to save every penny so that I can put it into other uses, either to pay school fees for my children, to live my life. And you're coming to tell me, no, you need to pay some to Caesar. And then there's a whole conversation, just like even in the comments this morning, is, we should be discussing what our taxes do before you talk about paying taxes. That's the first thing that you think. But why am I paying this tax? What value am I getting from the tax? And yet it's not the agency's job to utilize the tax. Their job is basically just to collect the tax. So they're in a very bad situation. Even if they are coming to tell you, this is what your obligation for income tax. Let's talk about how you need to be paying. Oh, you need to be, every quarter you should be paying. People are like,
Please.
You're already blocking. And now here you are, they're coming to tell you, by the way, you owe us because you did not, and then there's a penalty. It goes south.
And really, I can't agree with you, Mom. And the last 2 days, the day before yesterday, today, and tomorrow, there is a conference going on at Radisson in Upper Hill on how to control illicit flow of funds in Africa. where it's bringing 46 countries across Africa to have this conversation. I had a chance to speak to the conference yesterday morning, and I told them, if any country is not able to generate resources for funding their budget, they cannot claim to be sovereign. They cannot claim to be independent. And so paying our tax obligations is a way towards financing our budget, and that is a ticket to our sovereignty.
I agree with you 100%, Moishimia, but then you also see so there's a direct link then in making that call, but then even more so, there must be an even tighter link to then how these collected funds will then show what is being done.
Okay.
And if you cannot make the link between what is collected and what is actually being done, I think that undermines sovereignty completely.
Yep.
You know? And so, I think what's happening here is fantastic, because we're looking at legislating a particular thing to say, let's make it a little bit easier for folks who may have lost the plot essentially with what you're supposed to be doing when you pay your tax, and let's give you some amnesty. But the behavior is something that you cannot legislate on. And I think it must also be taken into consideration. Can you have a hybrid kind of legislation where you say, yes, absolutely, let's make life a little bit easier for Kenyans who did not know, who found themselves in a difficult way when it came to paying these taxes. But at the same time, can the overall attitude then be one of, we're actually attempting to foster this kind of development? And I don't know if those are conversations that actually play in the minds of the legislature.
Yeah, and if you look at the overall Finance Act, because again, this amnesty is possible courtesy of the Finance Act of 2023. An act where if you meet an average Kenyan, they probably will tell you that probably they are opposed to it or whatever they're saying. But this is what we're saying. Don't let politics of a day overtake the good legislation that we are doing. And not just that. Fertilizer prices last year were at 6,700. This year is at 2,500. Why is that possible? It is a Finance Act of 2023.
What's it doing?
Because by zero rating, all manufacturing, zero rating means you remove all the taxes on manufacture of fertilizer, made it possible not just to reduce the prices on fertilizer, but most importantly, have that fertilizer locally manufactured. And so we have many manufacturers in Kenya who have now turned into manufacturing this fertilizer, and therefore most of the fertilizer that we're consuming
Is local.
as a country is locally manufactured. So what that do? That creates jobs, that reduces the cost of production, and that enhances our food security. And these are some of the things that we are saying. We are a responsible administration. We are a responsible parliament. We are a responsible Committee of Finance and National Planning. And that is why we are extending these benefits to Kenyans. And just to wind it up, you don't need to do anybody. You don't need to talk to anybody.
All you need to do
All you
is go
should
to your
do
iTax.
is go to your iTax, apply for amnesty, and amnesty looks like a big English word. Inamaanisha forgiveness, and all your penalties and interest
Shall be forgiven.
will be forgiven.
Kuria Kimani, thank you. Let's go to the news. 9 a.m.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.